Hello, welcome back. We're ready for section 3 of chapter 1. I hope you've enjoyed the first two sections. And I hope you enjoyed the section 3 just as much, if not more, than the first two. Section 3 is titled Finding Equations of Lines. You're going to write equations of lines in multiple forms. Now, before we actually do any examples, I want to show you the different forms that we have to write the equation of a line. The first form we've talked about already. You may remember this from section 1. It's called general or standard form. It looks like this. AX plus BY is equal to C. That's like the mother of all forms for the equation of a line. Now, there's a few conditions that you need to be aware of here with standard form. That condition 1 is A, B, and C. All those must be integers. Who remembers what an integer is? Anybody? Tell me. Now, an integer is any non-fraction or non-decimal. Negative's fine. So, for instance, -3, he's cool. But 1/2, well, that's a fraction, so that's not an integer. 0.8, that's a decimal. That's not an integer. +10, that's fine. He's an integer. Anything that's not a fraction or a decimal. Alright, so they have to be integers, and their greatest common factor, i.e. their GCF, has to equal 1. And if they have anything bigger than 1 in common, then you're not in standard form. Another thing is A has to be greater than or equal to 0. It must be non-negative. Now, it's allowed to be 0 as long as B is not 0. Okay, so before we jump to the second form, let's practice with the standard form, because this is some pretty important stuff. So I'm going to give you a line. Here's your first line. It's 1/2 x plus 2y is equal to 6. And my question to you is that standard form? Or do you have to do something to it to make it standard form? Well, let's see here. Are the conditions met? Let's see here. First condition, A, B, and C must be integers. Well, A is 1/2. So right away, we got a problem. So if it's not an integer, how do you make it an integer? Well, the question is, how do you kill fractions? Well, in math, it's real easy. You multiply by the common denominator. And since there's only one fraction, the common denominator is 2. If there were two fractions, for instance, 1/3 x, I'm up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, plus 1/2 y, what would the common denominator be? Well, the common denominator there would be 6, so you multiply everything by 6. But anyway, we're not worried about that. So multiply by 2. 2 times 1/2 x is just x. 2 times 2y is 4y. And 2 times 6 is 12. There you go. Now that equation is in standard form. Very cool, because all three conditions are met. Try this one. What about this line? 4x plus 2y equals 6. Alright, check your conditions. A, B, and C must be integers, 4, 2, and 6. So that's good. GCF must equal 1. 4, 2, and 6. Is there anything bigger than 1 that goes into those numbers? And indeed there is. All these can be divided by 2. So, if you can divide by 2, then you should. Final answer, 2x plus y is equal to 3. Now that is in standard form, because all three conditions are met. Okay, and then finally, what if you had something like this? What if you had -3x plus 2y is equal to 9? Well, let's check our conditions. A, B, and C must be integers. -3, 2, and 9. All integers, check. GCF must equal 1. -3, 2, and 9. The GCF is 1, check. A has to be non-negative. It's got to be 0 or bigger. Well, looky here. We got a problem, don't we? That's an easy fix, though. How do you turn -3 into +3? You just multiply by -1, or, in other words, just flip all your signs. So that becomes minus 2y, and that becomes negative 9. And there you go. Now he's in standard form. Very important stuff right here. Okay, very important. I'll be pretty nitpicky about this. If I say write an equation in standard form, you need to be able to do that. Okay, the other forms of the line, slope-intercept form is simply y equals mx plus b, or y equals mx plus k. That's probably the one that you're most familiar with, the one you've seen in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 over and over. Another one you've seen in Algebra 2 is point-slope form, where the slope is equal to y minus y1 over, not m, backtrack that, over x minus x1. Another alternative way to write that one would be y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Notice all we've done is multiply both sides by the quantity x minus x1. And then finally, the last equation is called intercept form, and it looks like this. It's x over a plus y over b equals 1, where a is the x-intercept and b is the y-intercept.
Now, I haven't taught Algebra 2 in a long time, but I don't believe you've seen intercept form before. It's pretty rare. We rarely use it. However, there are a few situations that may come up where it'll come in handy. Now, what I'd like to do is a few examples with you to kind of get you ready for your homework in this section. Let me type out that, and we'll get going. Okay, so here are the first couple. Number one, I want you to write an equation in slope-intercept form and general form for the line that has a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 4. Now, if you know the slope and the y-intercept, you should be able to write an equation in slope-intercept form rather easily. Y equals mx plus k. Because we know the slope, m, and we know the y-intercept, k. So it's as simple as putting y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. Oh, if only they were all that easy. In addition, you can switch that to general form by picking up the negative 2x here and putting it on the other side, but make sure you drop it off as a positive 2x plus y, and that's equal to 4. Now make sure your conditions for A, B, and C are met, and they are. Now, nice. And there you go. That's the first one. Let's do number 2. Now here you're going to write an equation of a line where I give you the x-intercept of 4 and the y-intercept of 6. So let's think about what that means. I might even sketch a picture over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Little dot at 0, 6, dot at 4, 0. There's the equation, or there's a picture of what this line looks like. But I want you to write an equation. So if I give you an x-intercept, I'm actually giving you the ordered pair 4, 0. Now if I give you a y-intercept, I'm giving you the ordered pair 0, 6. Also, make a little special note here, I'm actually giving you k, or some of you like to refer to it as b, as in y equals mx plus b. So the only thing we need to find is the slope. Now you can find it by looking at the picture by doing rise over run, down 6 over 4, negative 6 over 4, which reduces to negative 3 over 2. That's actually your slope. Or you can do it algebraically, which is what I recommend, and that's to do y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. That'd be 6 minus 0 over 0 minus 4. That's 6 over negative 4, which is negative 3 halves. And now you can write the equation of your line. So, I need a little bit of room here. Let me see if I can make myself some room. Y equals m, we just found that, negative 3 over 2x plus b. And b was what? Oh yeah, I gave it to you. That was a freebie. You're welcome, guys. No more freebies after this. So there's your equation in slope-intercept form. And to go to general form, let's see here, we need to pick up the x term and put it on the other side. And when you pick it up negative, drop it off positive. Set that equal to 6. Now, are your conditions met? Red alert, red alert. Got a problem right there, don't we? That 3 over 2. That's not allowed to be there. So how do you get rid of 3 over 2? How do you kill that fraction? Multiply the whole thing by 2, the common denominator. And that will leave you with 3x, because the 2's die. Then give the little love into the y, that's 2y. And give some love to the 6, that's equal to 12. And there you go, 3x plus 2y equals 12. That's the equation in general form. Okay, let me type out a few more examples because I want to give you an example of just about every type you're going to see in your homework. That way there are no surprises. Okay, so here's number 3. I want you to write the equation of a line that goes through the points 2, 4, and negative 1, negative 3. Now, have I given you any freebies here? Have I given you the slope or the y-intercept? I haven't. I was mean to you this time, so you're going to have to find the slope yourself. Take one of your y's and subtract the other y. Now, if you started with the first y, you have to start with the first x on the bottom. This is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You've seen this before. That becomes 4 plus 3, which is 7. That becomes 2 plus 1, which is 3. So your slope is 7/3. Now, you don't know the y-intercept, so what you do is you pick a point, either one of the points. Okay, I'm going to make that little note up there. Pick a point and plug it into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We know what m is, we're just trying to figure out what b is. Okay, let's pick the point 2, 4. So here's your x and here's your y. Fill in y, that's 4. M we just found to be 7/3, and x is what is x is 2. Now we don't know b. All right, but we can solve for b now because we know everything else. So 4 is equal to 2 times 7 is 14/3, or 4 2/3. Subtract 14/3 from both sides, or what you could do is multiply everything by 3 to kill the fractions. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 14/3 is 14, and 3 times b is 3b. And now just solve that for b. Subtract 14 to both sides. You get negative 2 equals 3b. Divide by 3. b is negative 2/3. So, cha-ching, our equation, drum roll please, is y equals 7/3 x minus 2/3. That is in slope-intercept form. To go to a general form, we have a little bit of maintenance to do. Pick up your x term and drop it off on the other side. So it'd be negative 7/3 x plus y equals negative 2/3. Now, does it meet the conditions? Are a, b, and c all integers? They're certainly not. They're fractions. And is a non-negative? Certainly not. It's negative. So what we're going to do is multiply this entire equation by negative 3. Boom. 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 And that'll kill the fractions, and it'll make a positive. So negative 3 times negative 7/3 just becomes positive 7. Negative 3 times y is minus 3y. And negative 3 times negative 2/3 is positive 2. And there you have it. 7x minus 3y equals 2. And that's in general form. Very cool. Mind you, at any time, guys, you can pause the videos and go back and rewatch these examples if you need to. If you need a little more clarity. Let's jump to number 4. All right, write the equation of a line with y-intercept negative 3 and a line that's parallel to this line, 2x plus 5y equals 8. Now, notice I've given you a freebie here. Okay, that is k. All you need is a slope. All right. Now we know that the line that we want is parallel to this line, so we need to know this line's slope. So take that line and find its slope. How are you going to find its slope? Well, you'd have to get it in slope-intercept form. So pick up 2x, drop it off negative, divide by 5. You have negative 2/5 x plus 8/5. But all you care about is the slope, which is right here, negative 2/5. So pick up that negative 2/5 and drop it off over here. If M1 was negative 2/5, what's M2? Is it the same, or do you flip and switch? Well, since we're talking about parallel lines, you keep the slope the same. It's negative 2/5. And hey, I gave you a freebie, didn't I? What was K, the y-intercept? It was negative 3. So write your equation. Y equals negative 2/5 x minus 3. Very cool. Okay, and then put that in slope-intercept form. No, I'm sorry, that's already in slope-intercept form. Silly me. Put that in standard form. Pick up the negative 2/5 x, drop it off, net 2/5 x plus y equals negative 3. And then just kill the fractions by multiplying everybody by 5. So 2x plus 5y equals negative 15. Cha-ching! There you go. 2x plus 5y equals negative 15. That's general form. Okay, we've just got one example left, and it's a very, very important example. Okay, so here's example number 5. Now what I want you to do is put a star next to this one, because this is an incredibly important problem that you will see not only on your homework, but on the next quiz, on the next test, on the final, on homework quizzes. You'll see this problem pop up a whole lot. And here's the problem. It reads as follows. Write the equation of the perpendicular bisector of the segment joining the point A, which is negative 2, positive 3, and B, which is 4, negative 5. Now, I've given you a hint, and that's to draw a picture here. So go ahead and make a little grid on your notes, just like I've done here in the lower right-hand corner. And I want you to plot point A, which I've done right there, at negative 2, 3, and point B at 4, negative 5. Okay? And then connect the dots with that. So let me see how well I can do here. All right, not too bad. We need an equation of the perpendicular bisector of that line. Now, there's going to be several steps here. Okay? Step 1 is you need to find the slope. Anytime you want to write an equation, you need two things. You need m and you need k. Always make that note. All right? So you need to find what I'm going to call m sub 1. All right? Let's find the slope of that equation. Now, you could just count on your graph, rise over run, or you can do the algebra. Y2 is negative 5 minus y1 is 3. 4 minus negative 2. Okay? Make sure you know what I'm doing here, guys. I just did y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's it. That's negative 8 over 6, which reduces to negative 4/3. Okay? And if you count from A to B and you go down, you'll go down 8 over 6. Now, if M1 is negative 4/3, what does that mean M2 is? What does that mean the perpendicular slope is? Do you leave it the same, or do you flip and switch it? Well, you flip and switch it. So it goes from negative to positive, and instead of 4 over 3, it's 3 over 4. All right, very cool. So now we have the slope. All right, you might want to put a check right there next to M. You got your M. Now we got to figure out what K is. How are we going to do that? Well, I would suggest to you that you need to do what I'm going to call here step 2. And that's to find the midpoint of AB. Find the midpoint of the segment AB. Now, you remember how to find midpoints? Really easy. You add up the two endpoints and you average them, i.e. you divide by 2. So take your x's, negative 2 was your first x, plus your other x, which is 4, and cut them in half. Take your y's, 3 plus negative 5, divided by 2, cut them in half. And that'll give you your midpoint. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2, and 2 over 2 is 1. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2, and negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. And there you have it. That's your midpoint. Now, if I was a really good artist, then my red line on the graph should cross the point 1, negative 1. And it's pretty close. You got to give me credit for trying, right? All right, that's the midpoint of the red segment AB. All right, and here's the cool thing. We're looking for the line that's perpendicular to the red line, but crosses through the green point. Now, if they're perpendicular, that means they cross at right angles. All right? Well, we have the slope up here. We need the y-intercept. Now, we could guess that it's, I don't know, it's about -2, but we can't just guess in math. We got to be precise. So do we have enough information to find that y-intercept? Well, you know what? We do. Think about the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. We know the slope is 3/4, guys. Do we know a point that green line passes through? For sure? Well, we do. It's the midpoint of AB. That's the point they have in common. It's where they cross. So fill in y as -1 and fill in x as 1, and now you can find your b. So -1 is 3/4 plus b. Subtract 3/4 from -1. You get b is -1 3/4. Or I prefer to write -7/4. All right? Excellent. So if we had guessed -2, we'd been in trouble. It's actually -1 3/4, which is pretty close to -2, but not exactly. So here's our equation. Y equals 3/4 x minus 7/4. Cha-ching! There you go. Now that is in slope-intercept form. If you convert it to general form, it's 3x minus 4y is equal to 7. I'll let you guys do the algebra there, just to give you a little extra practice. Very important problem. You need to practice that one over and over again, especially before the first quiz. All right, folks, I think that's all I'm going to give you for Section 3. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I will see you later. I am out.